Yo, 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 yo. We back with another fire stream. It's your boy, Mark K. Smith. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, man. We just saw a great game. And even though the Indiana Fever lost to Minnesota, it was still a great game from start to finish. And also, we really got to see some true playoff basketball between Minnesota and between Indiana. And this is what the playoffs is going to be about. This is what it's going to be the Indiana Fever are going to see. You're going to see that intensity. You're going to see teams fighting to the finish. You're going to see understanding that different styles and matchups and different teams are going to have to figure things out in the playoffs for us, like how to play another team's play style, how to win when you are playing a team's play style within the game. Not every game is going to be where you're going to exert your will on an opposing team. Sometimes you're going to have to play a half court game. Sometimes you got to play a fast game. Sometimes the game is going to be close and the game is going to be won in the last 2 to 3 minutes of the game. So when we talk about the upcoming playoffs, and we talk about the Indiana Fever, and we talk about them not just making it to the playoffs because they already clinched their berth, but them actually having a opportunity to go far in the playoffs and actually compete. You're going to have to learn how to play different play styles, and they're a very young team, and I'm very excited. And that was just a testament to Minnesota being a top team. They are a contender for a reason. Because a lot of times, if you told me before the game started that you're going to get a combined 68 points from your big three in Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston, and you were going to lose the game, a lot of times if you're a head coach, you would have took those odds. You would have took those odds coming into the game. But that just goes to show you that when you're playing a really elite team, a really great team, that you got to understand that in the playoffs and when the playoffs arrive, and the Indiana Fever once again are a young team. They're extremely young. But not every time you're going to be able to play and dominate with your play style. And that's what I would love to see the Indiana Fever kind of get Boston more involved early on in the game, especially in the half court setting, because it's not going to be every game you're going to play with this extreme amount of pace and you're going to be able to exert your will on an opposing team. But the game was exciting. Nafessa Collar, she is a hooper. She is a top three basketball player in the game. And the Minnesota, they won the game without even their second best player in McBride really being a major factor. So when we look at this game in particular, this was only the second time that the Indiana Fever have lost at home since June. So when they play at home, they win, they dominate, they go out and they do great things. So I think this was, I'm not going to say a wake up call, but sometimes you need to lose. And the Indiana Fever have had a lot of momentum. They've been playing extremely well. The buzz, the media, the hypeness, everybody's been talking about the Indiana Fever. But sometimes, like, you're not going to win every game, and they've been on
For
a
help
great
with that
run.
question, go to the help and feedback section of the
Alexa
app.
off. My Alexa talking. In order to you're not going to win every game. You're not going to be able to continue and sustain a long run for 10 to 15 games. You're going to have to lose eventually. And what we saw with the Indiana Fever is that they really fought hard and they really gave everything they had to Minnesota, which is a team that can possibly go out and win a championship, who also had another MVP candidate on their team in Collar as well. And we know the Indiana Fever, they had Caitlin Clark. But once again, if you had 68 combined points, and what was it, 10 threes, 9 threes from Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, a lot of times you're going to win that game. But when you're playing a really, really great team who has more depth and more players on their roster that can contribute, then you have to have your others step up and your others dominate and produce on the basketball court. They didn't get nothing for Smith tonight. They really didn't get nothing for Lexi tonight. So in the playoffs, you're not just going to be able to win with your top three players just producing. It's gonna take a collective unit, especially when the game slows down and calls aren't going to go your way, and it's going to be even more physical, and your defense knows all your top 10 sets because they're able to game plan for you for a course over series than just one particular game out of the week during a long regular season. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. And once again, this was a great game. And the Festa College, she is a bucket. She is a 3-level scorer. She is once again a top 3 basketball player in the world when we talk about for the WNBA landscape. And what Caitlin Clark has been doing has been phenomenal. And we're about to talk about Caitlin Clark because we have to ask a legitimate question about Caitlin Clark and her greatness. And I know it's been a lot of conversations. A lot of people have been talking about Caitlin Clark and been talking about her rookie season and been talking about her being an MVP candidate, and deservedly so. But the question is Caitlin Clark the best rookie of all time? And there's been a lot of questions, and a lot of people are saying, like, well, pump the brakes because we know Candace Parker was a rookie of the year and also an MVP winner. But everything deserves context. And sometimes when you don't provide that context, people just automatically assume that, well, just because this player won Rookie of the Year, just because this player won Rookie of the Year and the MVP, that automatically qualifies them as the best player ever because they won 2 different awards at the same time, which is extremely hard and extremely difficult to do. So here's the numbers for the rookie seasons for Caitlin Clark and for Candace Parker. So you look at Candace Parker, right? 18.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 1.3 steals, 2.3 blocks, shot 52% from the field, 42% from the three-point line, 73% from the free throw line. So effective field goal percentage was 53% as well. Caitlin Clark, 18.9 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 8.4 assists, 1.4 steals, 0.8 blocks, 42% from the field, 34% for the three-point line, 90% from the field. Effective field goal percentage is 53. So if you list based on the statistics, it seems like they're very similar in a lot of ways. We know that Candace Parker shot a better field goal percentage and three-point percentage than Caitlin Clark, but for like the three-point percentage, who is a better pure shooter, who's a better pure scorer is definitely Caitlin Clark. But also we know that for his volume, it's a difference between Caitlin Clark taking 7 threes per game and also Candace Parker taking maybe 2 or 3 threes a game. So her volume was much lower, but she also was much more efficient. But that doesn't automatically qualify you as being a better shooter just because you had a low value of making threes. And you look at these 2 rookies, and we're comparing to Candace Parker and Caitlin Clark. And a lot of times people forget that the reason why the Los Angeles Sparks had the number 1 overall pick was because Lisa Leslie had a baby and she had, she wanted to leave and she missed the entire season. The Sparks really fell off a cliff, and then they got Candace Parker, and then we know what happened once Lisa Leslie and Candace Parker started playing together. So it's kind of like the perfect scenario for Candace Parker and for Lisa Leslie and the Los Angeles Sparks. But we just basic things on the overall importance, being an engine, not playing on a great team like the Sparks were, because they were a team that was in the playoffs and was very dominant before Candace Parker arrived, but they lost their best player, Lisa Leslie, because she got pregnant. So it's just like you have to factor all those things. We have to add context and get in the chat and let me know how y'all feel. But adding context and adding like all the records that Caitlin Clark has broken in her rookie season compared to Candace Parker. And if this was any other year, we'll be talking about Caitlin Clark winning Rookie of the Year and the MVP. But unfortunately, like Angel Wilson is just so better than everybody in the WNBA. She has that award on lock, similar to how Caitlin Clark has a Rookie of the Year award on lock. But for us, the comparisons of the two, just because Candace Parker's won Rookie of the Year and the MVP in the same season does not automatically qualify her as being the best rookie ever. especially when we talk about team situations, team roles, team responsibilities, one player being an engine, as well as doing things that we haven't seen before entering the WNBA. So that's always the question. And we look at some of the awards that Caitlin Clark has kind of have done this year, and it's been very, very phenomenal. Second rookie with 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 3 points made in the game. First rookie with 15 points, 10 assists, 5 plus 3 points made in the game. First rookie in WNBA history recorded triple double. First player in Indiana's franchise history recorded triple double. First player in WNBA history with 29 points, 13 assists, 5 rebounds, 5 3-point field goals made, 5 steals, 3 blocks. Only rookie with multiple games of 20 points and 10 assists in a season. Second rookie to reach 200 assists in WNBA history. WNBA rookie record 4 games with 25 plus, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. First rookie with 450 points and 200 assists in a season. All-time rookie assist record holder. Most three-pointers made by a rookie in Indiana Fever franchise history. Most three-pointers made by a rookie record holder. Caitlin Clark is breaking records. So when we talk about a rookie season where she's breaking all these extremely great records, and she's been dominant, and she's been an engine, and she's about to have the Indiana Fever reach their first playoff since 2016 when she was a freshman in high school. And she's came into the game deemed as a chosen one-on-one, doing things that we have never seen on the WNBA floor before, being a four-level scorer, being a passion maestro, being a pace god, being an overall engine for your team, and about to averaging 37.6 points when we talk about points and assists combined, and about to break that NBA record for generating the most points throughout the entire season. Statistically, we're talking about somebody that has a case for the greatest rookie ever. And I know that may make people uncomfortable due to the fact, once again, Candace Parker won Rookie of the Year and MVP at the same time. But her rookie season, she wasn't doing this and breaking records, doing certain things, and had the same level of responsibility as Caitlin Clark. And even her team, if you looked at her team that she had, they were already a great team, but they fell off due to losing their best player. And they were able to get Candace Parker and Lisa Leslie, and then they would go on and dominate because they, once again, their team wasn't really that bad, or as bad as the Indiana Fever until Caitlin Clark came along. And even you look at the history of Lisa Leslie with the Sparks, they've always was a great team until that particular season when she had got pregnant. So we got to give credit when credit is due. We got to give flowers, and I'm not saying that I'm just making a case for Caitlin Clark for the best rookie season ever. I'm not saying that I would take her over Candace Parker. I'm not saying she's a better player overall. I'm not saying that her rookie season automatically, is better than Candace Parker. I'm not saying none of those things. I'm just saying that she has a case for the best rookie ever. If we look at the game of basketball, the responsibility, her being an engine, her dominating, her being a generator for its like plays and passing ability and setting her teammates up for success. We gotta keep it real. We gotta keep it a beam. We gotta keep it a buck. And sometimes it may make people uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, we're looking at the totality of everything and the context of everything, and we're not just leaving out the fact that, well, this player won Rookie of the Year and MVP, so that automatically makes her the best rookie, because of a lot of different factors and variables that can come into play when we have these conversations, and we're just looking at this player compared to that player, not just solely on the numbers, but also eye test and ability, responsibility, team structure, and just overall coming into the league, bringing something new, bringing something fresh. So it's a conversation definitely to be had, just like it's a conversation that we're about to have about Sheryl Swoopes and Caitlin Clark. So when we look at the situation, with Sheryl Swoopes and with Caitlin Clark. I'm here to say that first and foremost, I am not an ally for any sector. So when you talk about some of Caitlin Clark's fans and troll accounts and people being extremely racist, I am not for that at all, whatsoever. That has no place in the game of basketball. That has no place in life in general. But as a black man, I will never be for people using racist comments, racist tweets, using a player in our fan base to try to be racist towards other players. But I'm also not a person that's going to come out and say that Caitlin Clark is responsible for some of these things that are going on and taking place. Just like I'm not going to say that LeBron James and Stephen Curry are responsible for things that have gone on and taken place with their crazy fan bases as well. Once again, I'm not an ally for none of the bullshit when it comes to that. I'm also not an ally when it comes for people trying to make things into a race war when we're talking about basketball or when we're talking about people are attacking other people's character, attacking other people's blackness. People have said to me, "Oh, you like Caitlin Clark? You're this, you're that." As a black man, you're sucking up to a white woman, things of that nature. I am not for any of that as well. I think there's no place for the game in that or in life because I think everybody has their own opinion. But I think just because people that love basketball and want to talk about basketball, and everybody else wants to talk about nothing having to do with basketball because they have certain agendas, where there's racism, where there's race war, where there's trying to some people trying to question your blackness, where the people are being trolls. None of that has a place. I am not an ally for none of that bullshit. So when I'm talking about the game of basketball and people are commenting and people are engaging, we can have an opinion, but we're not going to do any of those two sides because I don't care about none of y'all or nobody that much where I feel like to have them comment, to have them follow, to have them subscribe that much. So you will be blocked if you're being racist, if you're being sexist, if you're saying crazy comments, if you're constantly going after people to support a player, you will be blocked. You will be blocked if you're trying to make things in a race war, if you're trying to question people's blackness, if you're trying to say, well, if you like Caitlin Clark, you cannot be black. You're not black. If you like Caitlin Clark over Angel Reese, when we're strictly talking about basketball, you will be blocked because there's no place for that in the game that I love and the analysts that I do and what I'm bringing to the sport of basketball. Because at the end of the day, basketball is basketball, and I'm not going to let these crazy different sectors. Y'all can do that, but I'm not going to let these crazy different sectors try to suck me into these narratives or these conversations that have nothing to do with the game of basketball. So, and I'm not trying to say, I'm not one of these people that's going to come out and say that like those conversations shouldn't be had at all, or a person's experience isn't their experience. But I am here to say that like we're not going to use people trying to use troll counts as to say that's all Caitlin Clark fans. We're not going to use people trying to use make things into a race war just because black people may like or support Caitlin Clark, or black people may like or support Angel Reese for different reasons. We're not doing that because at the end of the day, I want to talk about basketball. I want to talk about the beauty and the purity and the essence of the game. And I don't want to talk about shit that belongs on TMZ. This is not TMZ. This is basketball we're talking about. It's not WWE. And this is what it seems like where basketball is becoming in the NBA and the WNBA. It's like it's coming WWE. Like it's just reality is starting to get blurred in a lot of different ways and a lot of different for a lot of different reasons. So that's not what it's ever going to be on this platform. Which brings me to Sheryl Swoopes. I want to say this. All standing, player stand, team stands, memes, AV accounts, all standing is crazy. All standing is kind of like you may need some help. If you are standing over a player, standing over a team so much that you're losing your identity or it's become so much of your identity is that if somebody says something about this player or this team, you're losing your mind. All standing is insane. But I want to dive deep into this whole entire situation with Sheryl Swoopes and also Caitlin Clark. And I'm going to really dissect it. And I'm really going to break it down, chat. And I'm really going to talk about how everything started. And then I'm going to give my opinion, if that's cool with y'all. And I know it's late, but we're going to lock in. We're going to lock in. First and foremost, Sheryl Swoopes is a legendary basketball player. She is seen as the GOAT by many people. She is one of my GOATs for the game of basketball in general, or also for the game of the WNBA. Sheryl Swoopes is phenomenal talent, a USA Olympian champion, has won multiple championships, MVPs, gold medals. Sheryl Swoopes is deemed as the female Jordan. So she is the GOAT and has every right to talk about basketball. But let's talk about the original kind of like disagreement when it came from this divide, as this separation between Sheryl Swoopes and Caitlin Clark. It all started on Gilbert Arenas Arena, which is his podcast, his show, where she made a lot of claims that really didn't make any sense. And a lot of claims were just simply weren't factual or weren't true. One of those claims was that it took Caitlin Clark more than 4 years to accomplish breaking a record when she actually did it in 4 years and less games. Like they was basically trying to say like, oh, due to her freshman year being shorter due to COVID and things of that nature, that her breaking this award didn't really count. And she was like 24 years old and when she wasn't at all. So that was the first initial reaction for us, like where people's issues came with Sheryl Swoopes and Caitlin Clark, because that official reaction on Gilbert's Arena was a lie, was a flat out bona fide lie. So, and then she claimed, when part two was, like I said, she claimed Caitlin Clark was 25. And so she was like, so Caitlin Clark's 25, so she should be better than younger players. Well, in actual reality, when she said that, Caitlin was actually 22 years old. So those are the first two parts, saying that she's was in the league longer due to a COVID year, and that's why she's breaking and accomplishing all these records. And another one was she was 25 when she was 22 years old. Then she claimed that Caitlin Clark puts up 40 shots per game, when actually she averaged a little under 20 shots during her college tenure. So right off the bat, for us like Sheryl Swoopes and Caitlin Clark, we're seeing things that like, okay, well, you don't have to like a player. You can analyze a player. You can talk about it. You can give your opinion on the game. And that's fine. But at the same time, we just want to make sure, and a lot of people want to make sure, some of Caitlin Clark's fans, they want to make sure that like, yo, we're just getting things right. And I think a lot of times people got offended by the outcry because it's cool being wrong, but being loud and wrong and making up things is totally different. So once again, there's nothing wrong with a person being wrong, but doing it on a public platform, it's like, yeah, and you messed up, and then you won't really say anything about it. Then it's just kind of like, that's corny. And then, we saw this past week that she was on Twitter, Sheryl Swoopes, and kind of crashing out a little bit. And she released personal text message kind of talking about the things and apologizing to Caitlin Clark based on the things that I just mentioned earlier in the stream. And to me, I thought that was kind of corny. I don't think anybody should really share personal messages, but I guess she was trying to prove a point and try to get people off her back. But to be honest, it kind of made the situation seem very worse because you could have just came out and once again, your statement was public and wrong. You could have just basically came out and said, "Well, I apologize and I had some misinformation." There's nothing wrong with apologize. There's nothing wrong with taking the high roads. Nothing wrong with admitting to yourself that you were wrong. It was a time where when Ben Simmons was popping and Giannis was starting his ascension, and I said that I believe that I would rather have Ben Simmons over Giannis Antetokounmpo before Giannis won his MVP and stuff like that. But when Ben Simmons was both good and they were both kind of like Giannis was still here and Ben was like here, I was like I would rather have Ben Simmons over Giannis Antetokounmpo because I believe Ben Simmons is ultimately more skilled than Giannis Antetokounmpo, which I still do to this day from a skill set perspective. But just because you're more skilled does not automatically make you a better player. But I was saying that for his potential, I thought that Ben Simmons could be what Giannis is into today's league, like average 25 points and 8 rebounds, 8 assists. I thought Ben Simmons could do that. That was his potential. He didn't never achieve that potential, and Giannis kept ascending and Ben kept falling. And later on, I will come out and admit that I was wrong because I remember I made that statement on a public platform and it went viral. And people still try to use that tweet to this day, talking about, oh, you remember you said this? Yeah, everybody gets it wrong sometimes. But at the same time, I didn't stay within that realm of me being wrong. I admitted that I was wrong and it was an opinion back then, and I was basing on things off of analysis that I was doing, and that's not even as worse as what Caitlin Clark and Sheryl Swoopes and the issues between those two. For as like Sheryl Swoopes has on Caitlin Clark, for as like her making up things, that was just me analyzing and trying to look what I seen with Ben Simmons and kind of gauge his future. That's a total different thing. But the point of the matter is I still not apologize. I still admitted to the fact that I was wrong. And I think on a public platform. And I think that's what a lot of people wanted Sheryl Swoopes to do. But she's did it. And she didn't have to. But it's just kind of like you were falsifying a lot of facts and information and you came across as just a hater, which is nothing wrong with being a hater. And I will talk about that later on. But let's get back to it. So she released those private text messages with her and Caitlin Clark. Then that was this week. But after the initial like Gilbert Arenas podcast, it was still issues that were coming on. She would go on the what was it? The Queens on the Court, which is a basketball podcast. And this is where all the other issues started to happen. And people start realizing, like, yeah, this ain't really making sense. There's some insecurity happening. There's some hate happening. There's some, like, questionable things that Sheryl Swoopes is saying. Swoopes said that she thought that the Indiana Fever would have been a playoff team without Caitlin Clark. That was on the Queens of the Court contest, a team that hasn't been in the playoffs since 2016, a team that's going to the playoffs already clinched a playoff berth with Caitlin Clark, a team that was solely bad and under 500 and not even close for 5 straight years. She said that they would be a playoff team without Caitlin Clark, who has came on the Indiana Fever as their best player, their engine, and has been responsible for generating the most points throughout the NBA, the WNBA in their rookie season. And she said that they would have been a playoff team without her. And she mentioned everybody's name and their impact besides Caitlin Clark. Shortly after that, Sheryl Swoopes was calling a WNBA game with the Dallas Wings, which she normally calls as a color commentator. And when Caitlin's name came up as player of the week for the WNBA, it was a silence. Just a mute. A long mute. No commentary, no analyzing the game, no saying that Caitlin Clark had a phenomenal week. That could have been it. could have gave you anything. That didn't happen. And some people are saying that Indiana Fever fans and Caitlin Clark fans are overreacting. But if you look at all these things that have led up to all these moments, it's just like if it quack like a duck and it walk like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. So this was that. Then the following Dallas Wings game with Dallas and Indiana Fever, she did not call the game. Like Nancy Limmerman, who is a Hall of Famer, a legend, she was on call. And then afterwards, Stephen A. Smith came out on his podcast and his show and basically called out Sheryl Swoopes due to her lack of professionalism on not being able to comment on Caitlin Clark winning Player of the Week, which led to her being removed from that broadcasting game with the Indiana Fever and Dallas Wings. So now all these things are starting to happen. And it just seems like it's stemming from hate, jealousy, or a level of insecurity. So then Nancy got on Stephen A. Smith's show. She wanted to say that the initial backlash that she received, Sheryl Swoopes received, she wish she would have handled the situation better. And she had a conversation with Swoopes, and Swoopes got mad, ended their friendship, and that was that. So that's how we came. That's the Sheryl Swoopes and the Caitlin Clark saga, and it's the one-sided saga, and it's very interesting because at the end of the day, I would say this, and then Sheryl Swoopes was on Twitter, and she started talking about like how she was receiving racist comments, racist threats. And I'm gonna say this again: nobody should be receiving racist threats or harassment for their comments and called out of their name or any of those things over basketball. And also, nobody should be perceived or called out of their name or saying that they're being a Uncle Tom or a coon or they're not black or people question somebody's blackness and because some black people or a lot of black people like Caitlin Clark due to her basketball ability. Once again, I'm not an ally for racism. I'm not an ally for hate. I'm not an ally for harassment. I'm not an ally for race war. I'm not an ally for people trying to talk about or question other people's blackness or try to question who they are as a person because they like Caitlin Clark or they have a different opinion than somebody else due to the fact that they just enjoy what Caitlin Clark is bringing to the game of WNBA, being one-on-one, being the chosen one, being somebody that's brought a lot of eyes, bringing the game globally. So it's like I'm not an ally for any of that bullshit. So you got two sides of the coin, and both people are playing victim in some form or fashion. And once again, I'm not saying that nothing that people are experiencing, those are their experiences. But to once again say that everybody should feel a certain way due to just because you have an experience on things, that's not the case. Or to question somebody else's opinion or what they like or how they view the game of basketball because other people want to have racist troll accounts and make racist comments in supporting somebody, or people want to make hateful comments and question people's blackness and character to support somebody, all y'all are crazy. Because once again, all fandom and standing is a form of mental illness when we talk about the player AVs, the muse accounts, people being racist, people trolling, people making things into a race war. All those things is a form of mental illness. So I just want to get that out and say that once again. So I understand what Angel Reese is coming out and saying about how some of Caitlin Clark's fans are crazy as hell. I understand Sheryl Swoopes coming out and saying about how people have been racist and her fan bases is some of her fan bases are racist, but that's not all her fans. Just like I understand how some of Angel Reese's fans are crazy and out of their damn mind and questioning people just because they like Caitlin Clark's a particular basketball player or they think that she's a better basketball player than Angel Reese, and we're strictly talking about basketball, they're crazy as well. So it's just like it don't switch based on what side of the craziness people are on. Everybody's crazy if that's what you're doing. And for the ones that love the game of basketball and love the purity of the game, then don't get mad at people when they just want to talk about basketball when everybody else want to talk about everything else. And then people want to say, well, it sounds like, the people that want to talk about basketball are saying essentially that they just want people to shut up and dribble. That's not what people are saying at all. And I hate how people are making that casual ass comment and statement just because people won't acquiesce to picking a side and going along with the narratives. When the truth of the matter is, you can like Caitlin Clark, you can like Angel Reese. I'm a person that does like both. I don't give a damn about either crazy ass narratives or fan bases that want to try to pinpoint these women against each other. I care about basketball. I care about hoop. I love analyzing the game. I love the purity and the essence of the game. I'm going to commentate and talk about the game of basketball. I'm going to compare and analyze different players based on the game of basketball, based on positions, based on play style, based on team setting, based on team situation, based on overall impact, based on court ability, based on skill set, based on talent. That's basketball. None of that stuff that some of these people are doing in the name of supporting Caitlin Clark and some of the racist people and the racist fan base and the troll accounts or Angel Reese fan bases and the narratives and the question people's blackness and question people's character. None of that has anything to do with people saying like, oh, shut up and dribble, or don't keep this about basketball, or who wants to just keep things about basketball because it's not everything is synonymous with everything outside of the game of basketball because things can't just be basketball when it comes to those two. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's absolutely asinine. That's absolutely foolish. That's absolutely just frustrating because at the end of the day, you don't have to contribute to the tearing down of these two individuals with people that are just being having a heart full of hate on both sides. So that's all. It's just like in force like the Sheryl Swoopes and things of that nature. Sheryl Swoopes can say anything she wants about Caitlin Clark. She can give her opinion on the game of basketball because she has earned that right. And once again, the problem initially was that she just was wrong. And some of the statements that she made early on in Gilbert Arenas arena was just inaccurate. And it's okay if you want to hate. It's okay if you want to say what's on your mind and not be, oh, just don't like Caitlin Clark for whatever reason. Shaq just came out and called Rudy Gobert a bum and Ben Simmons a bum because he feels like they're making all this money and they're not playing and living up to their contracts. This is Shaquille O'Neal. Skip Bayless made a career. He already had a career. He was always an excellent journalist for years, but then he really extended and made a large career off of hating off of LeBron James. And regardless if Sheryl Swoopes, Skip Bayless, Shaq, regardless of what they're doing is lame, because I think it's considered lame. I think it's considered corny. I think it's considered not cool. But at the end of the day, you can't get mad at them or Sheryl Swoopes if she's doing it to Caitlin Clark because people aren't necessarily getting mad. Not everybody's going to get, well, some people are, but not, people aren't getting mad about Skip Bayless for 15 years. People ain't getting mad at Shaq. You know, it's all seen as the eye of entertainment for a lot of times when it comes to the NBA. And this is just the first time in the WNBA we're witnessing a really a former legend really just hate on a younger player or just don't like a younger player. And I'm here to say that's okay, even though it's corny, even though it's lame. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of like we've seen in other sports, in particular basketball, we've seen legends and we've seen media members do it all the time. So nobody's going to be up in arms that Sheryl Swoopes is just hating on Caitlin Clark, even if I think it's corny, even if a lot of people think it's corny. But the game is the game. It's like you got to keep that same energy at the end of the day. But this is your boy, Mike K. Smith. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I really appreciate y'all, man. And I know it's late, but just want to come on, hop on stream and talk about all those things that's been going on in this whole entire week because it's been a lot. And I'm sorry I'm a little late talking about it, but better late than never. But never late is better. They tell me time is money, but we'll spend that together. In the words of Drake, though, I'm gone, man. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We out. Peace.